Tonight, a statement by the British High Commission in Accra punches holes in claims by Ghana's Narcotic Control Board that it collaborated with UK authorities, leading to the arrest of Miss Nayeli Ametepe, who was busted in London for carrying 12 kilograms of cocaine. Ghana's Communications Minister Dr. Edward Omani Boama had earlier said government does not believe NACOP cooperated with the UK authorities in the recent arrest. So what does this clear contradiction mean in the eyes of international partners? And how does this affect Ghana's image? Has Ghana's Narcotic Control Board lost the plot? Well, must heads start rolling at NACOP? Is there anything else we should know that we do not? This is today's big story. Now, the Narcotic Control Board of Ghana, NACOB, in a press release of November 17, stated emphatically that the arrest of a lady in London with 12 kg of cocaine was made through a collaborative effort with its British partners. But the British High Commission in Accra, in a statement, says UK authorities had no prior knowledge of the intentions of Ms. Ametepe before flying from Accra to London on 9th October. 9th November. Now, the High Commission statement also said, wherever possible, any potential drug trafficker to the UK from Ghana is arrested here in Ghana and not permitted to board a flight in order to traffic drugs. This contradiction appears to be a slap in the face of Ghana's drug enforcement. Now, let's get onto the telephone lines now and do some discussions. Director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center, Dr. Kwesi Ening, is joining us on telephone now. We're trying to raise him back on the telephone so that we will do this discussion tonight. Now, if you've just joined us, what we're discussing is what appears to be a clear contradiction of NACOB and the statements from British High Commission in Accra, which says that it virtually has no clue of the intentions of Miss Ametepe, who was arrested in London with 12 kilograms of cocaine on November 9th. We're still trying to get onto the telephone lines and get Dr. Kwesi Ening to join us. But we will be finding out what he makes of this obvious contradiction. You would also possibly know that earlier this week, the President, John Dramani Mahama, reacted to the reportage of this cocaine issue. He made references to the fact that journalists may not have done due diligence and reported factual inaccuracies. But on the back of what appears to be coming out now, will we still say that these contradictions constitute real facts which we should depend on? Are there any things that NACOB should be telling us that we don't know? Did NACOB lie? These are some of the questions that we'll be putting out to Dr. Ening when he joins us on the telephone. My name is Stephen Anti, and we'll be right back. Well, we're still trying to get Dr. Kwesi Ening back on the telephone lines for the discussion. Meanwhile, earlier this week, like I said, after the cocaine story broke, President John Dramani Mahama criticized journalists for being hasty to report inaccuracies without due diligence. He even went further to justify BNI's, quote, invitation of City FM's Managing Director, Samuel Atamensa. Let's recap what the President said at the forum earlier this week.
The lack of training and experience is often apparent in the articles and reports that are broadcast, some of which are riddled with grammatical and factual errors, as well as inconsistencies. It is a growing problem in this country, one that is affecting the quality as well as the veracity of the news and information we receive. We must start speaking about it honestly. Constructive criticism is not an attack on media freedom. We must start to define the responsibilities that media men and women have to the public and to the profession. Government, since our return to constitutional democracy and the rule of law, has witnessed and in recent times welcomed the evolution and expansion of Ghana's independent media. Likewise, the media must also recognize that government has evolved and changed. This isn't our father's or your father's BNI. This is the BNI of today. Of course, the core priorities of the institution remain the same, but the way of doing business, the means and the methods has changed. But the media, based on its reporting, would have that institution remain locked in the past. In its investigations, the BNI narrowed down the story's original source of dissemination in Ghana to the radio station and the national newspaper. Both editors were asked, not ordered, to come to the BNI offices to assist them with their investigation. Both editors complied of their own free will. They were not arrested or detained. And both editors have publicly stated that their experience at the BNI was cordial and non-threatening. They have publicly informed that while at the BNI offices, their rights were never violated.
Well, we now have on the telephone Dr. Kwesi Ening, who is director at the Faculty of Academic Studies and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. And then I also have the executive director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Ibrahim. Both gentlemen are joining us on the telephone now. Dr. Ening, let me start with you. What appears to be the contradiction between what NACOP put out and what the British High Commission also put out? Where does this put us, Ghana? Does it affect our image in any way?
There is a line that seems to be beeping. So can you check from your studio if there's something wrong with one line?
Right. I think that we have Suleimana Ibrahim from the Media Foundation for West Africa on the other telephone line.
Yes, so can you turn it off, because I think
we're getting feedback from there, right? We'll try to fix that problem. Dr. Ening, we'll try and fix that problem. We can have the conversation. Our technical people will resolve the issue. Thank you very much. So I was asking what you make of this statement that was put out by the British High Commission in Accra against what NACOP put out earlier. Right, I think we've lost both gentlemen on the telephone. We're trying to work the telephone and bring them back on the telephone now. You would know earlier also today we're tackling two major issues: the issue with the drugs, the narcotic illicit drugs, and the posturing of NACOP and the response that appears to have come forward from the British High Commission. And we're joined on the line now. Again, we lost Dr. Ening, but he's back on the telephone. Dr. Ening, good evening, sir.
yes, good evening.
Now, I was asking what you make of NACOP's posturing and the response that came from the British High Commission to the effect that indeed it didn't collaborate with NACOP, especially in the arrest of the recent suspect arrested in London for possession of cocaine.
This is a really sad, tragic, and an extremely disturbing situation. You know, first that it has serious reputational and credibility issues for Ghana. Because NACOP is not just any other organization. NACOP is our premier national security anti-narcotics organization that collaborates with almost all the major anti-narcotics organizations in the world. So to deliberately misuse your contact and collaboration with another major agency to try to throw dust in the eyes of the people of Ghana and the international community, and for you to be exposed this way, raises criticism. First, about the professionalism, the trust, the security of information that as partners we exchange between and amongst ourselves.
So would you say NACOP lied to Ghanaians?
Well, if the UK High Commission's statement is also to be taken to be 100% true.
True.
The NACOB did not only lie, it sought to divert national attention from the critical issues around this case. And those critical issues are not just about somebody or a Ghanaian trafficking drug. It's about Ghana as a transit and a destination nation. It's about money laundering. It's about terrorist financing. It's about whether our international partners can trust us that we will not sell or abuse or misuse the sensitive intelligence information that we share amongst ourselves. This is a reputational issue. Not only for NACOB, but for Ghana. Because for a government minister to publicly dissociate government from the statements and the activities of its premier national security agencies against narcotics, to raise these critical issues that I think both the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament must meet and try to resolve this.
Right. Dr. Eni, you did mention a while ago that Ghana is a destination, a transit point and a destination. Is that what it is? Is that what we are? Is that what the international community sees Ghana?
I don't care what the international community sees Ghana as. That is what we know it to be. If you read the West African Commission on Drugs report, Ghana is identified first as the second hub for narcotics after Guinea-Bissau. If we take the last 20 years, Ghana has consistently failed to fulfill its part of any international partnership agreement. The MV Benjamin case, the Bene case, the jet that was arrested in Guinea-Bissau of $660,000 for money laundering, the Financial Action Task Force that sought to kick Ghana out of the organization. We pay lip service to the fight against narcotics. Okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Quantum and a lot of other people have said, look, we need a bipartisan commission with the powers of the High Court to begin to unravel this challenge that is threatening our democracy and our survival as a nation.
Would you say? Would you say we've lost the plot? We've lost control of the fight?
I am naturally optimistic. I always think I will find love the next day. I always think that my state that is on fire and my Barolo Redman that is open is the best. I am a naturally optimistic person.
Right.
So I don't think we have lost the fight. But we need to ask some very tough questions. Where did these drugs come from? How large were they? How much of it has already been taken out of this country? What are the underpinning and supporting networks that made the further transmission of these drugs and the export of these drugs possible? How much of it is remaining in this country? Okay? The nationality of the trafficker is not important. Insofar as the drugs left on the flight from Ghana, for our international partners, it is Ghana and not an individual.
It is Ghana. And what does it make it look like for this Miss Amethape to have traveled for using the VIP lounge of Ghana? Does it make it any worse?
Oh, what it means is that we as Ghanaians have not understood the networks and the mechanisms and the processes of infiltrating the agencies and the institutions necessary for facilitating this trade.
Right.
I mean, if you read all my works over the last 17 years, you see, I sound like a broken record. repeating. And I'm sure if you ask Evans Mensah, the late Komla Dumont, and people, this is nothing new. I'm saying nothing new. Okay, we've got to understand the networks and the underpinning structures that facilitate trade. About 18 months ago, when there was a major burst in this country, I had challenged Mr. President, His Excellency, that I did not think that those who advised him on narcotics were telling him the truth. The next day, people had bought front page space in all kinds of newspapers. Oh, Dr. Enin wants a job from the president. I don't need a job from the president. I'm very happy with what I do. But I think as a nation, we need to securitize and uplift the threat that narcotics poses to our stability.
That's right.
And our survival.
Right, that's right. Dr. Enin.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Carry on, sir.
You see, when I use the word securitization, it's very particular. Securitization means that we uplift the threat that narcotics poses to this nation, and that allows us to use extraordinary measures to fight it. And it is clear that until we do that, okay, now we join.
Right, Dr. Enin, are you still there? So that we carry on with the discussion. Yeah.
No, there. Now, as I speak this week.
Right. I think we'll call Dr. Enin. We'll apologize. We'll call you back. We're getting cranky feedback from the line. We'll call you back. We'll still have Suleiman Barima, Executive Director of Media Foundation for West Africa, on the line. We lost him too. We apologize to you viewers for the nature of our telephone connections today. My name is Stephen Ante, and this is today's big story. We're analyzing two key issues. We're analyzing the issue of the drugs, illicit drugs, and the response that have come forward from the British High Commission, reacting actually to claims by NACOP that it collaborated with British partners in the arrest of Ms. Methepe, who was recently arrested in London with 12 kilograms of cocaine in her handbag. And also staff of ECG in Avino are angry that their boss, Reverend Engineer Williams, have been reassigned by the president. We're trying to get onto the other telephone lines also to speak to an energy policy expert to analyze whether ECG is being set as a scapegoat or whether the reassignment of its managing director is fair and whether the staff are right in protesting against his removal. This is today's big story. We'll be right back. Let's move away from the cocaine saga. Angry workers of the Avena office of ECG are protesting against the removal of managing director of the company, Reverend Engineer William Hutton Mensah. Well, is the removal of the ECG boss fair? And is it the beginning of the needed restructuring, or it's just victimization or setting him up as a scapegoat? Let's quickly recap an interview the energy minister granted us yesterday.
Every time you talk about the electricity situation, you know, it becomes emotional because, quite frankly, if you are in the dark and you don't have electricity, it is very painful. It is very disorganizing. It is very annoying. And we know that. Why? You know, I've said I won't explain the reasons again because the people of Ghana don't want to hear that. They want the light on. I'll tell you what we are doing about that. This is what we are doing about that. What we are doing about that is to make sure, and remember, it doesn't take 1 week to add 100 megawatts. But this is what we, led by President Mahama, has been able to do. I showed a gap, a map. Just last week, the cabinet of His Excellency Mahama's government approved a power purchase agreement for the first time. That will give us over 1,000 megawatts. But the people of Ghana, that's not what they want to hear. But I'm saying that if every year, this year, the demand for electricity has increased, by 12%. That is 250 megawatts. If you today cannot really project and plan because of the pain you are going through, we've gone to the Senate. Forget about all the plans I'm doing and adding more generation in the coming years. We are bringing an emergency badge. We finish everything. I've been traveling around it to bring 450 early next year. At least early next year to bring 450. We are working to fix all the thermal plants that are gone. But we are also fighting a lot of challenges. You know and I know that Akosombo could give us more than 1,000 megawatts. Today he's giving us less than 600 or less. He's giving us 100 out of 400. So we have a problem. The problem is, but the people of Ghana can have confidence that the people that put in charge understand it. We get it. We get it, that the key to addressing these problems is in this budget. That is why the president has been able to convince the people of the United States to give us 500 million to clean up ECG. And guess what? We are going to do it. We are saying that in areas, we know what the people of Ghana are saying. ECG has failed miserably. Can the private sector help in that? We are going to spend that money to transform it.
Well, the minister says ECG has failed miserably. And then we hear the news today that the MD of ECG, Reverend Engineer William Hutton Mensah, has been reassigned to go back to the Energy Ministry. This is the same ministry headed by the Energy Minister. He's supposed to go back there to be reassigned. And workers of the ECG in Aveno here are not happy about that decision and have protested against the removal of their boss and are asking for his reinstatement with immediate effect. What we don't know is what will follow on from this threat, that they're issuing a threat that they will go on a demonstration, further demonstrations if their boss is not reinstated. We're trying to get onto the telephone lines and speak to John Peter Amewu, who is with the Africa Center for Energy Policy. He agreed to speak to us earlier. We got him on the telephone line, but we lost him. The line has been tripping. So the key issue is that, is it fair to dismiss the ECG boss, or is it that ECG has been set up as a scapegoat to blame for all of the energy crisis that is facing Ghana? You must know that ECG is only a distributor. So is it fair to say the distributor restructuring must take place at the with the distributor only, or all of the other players in the industry should be affected? John Peter Amewu is joining us now. John, good evening and thanks for your time.
Yeah, good evening and good evening to your listeners.
Right. I know that we're very tight with time and we might not have a lot to say, but ECG is only a distributor. I said it earlier. Would you say it's fair to sack the MD of the distributor, you know, amidst challenges that is facing power supply generally in Ghana?
I think the president has misfired and shot at the wrong target. His dismissal, I don't think it's part of the transformational nature of addressing the problem within the power sector. The 2015 budget, as we were told, says that there's going to be some transformation, or it's a transformational budget. And within the energy sector, there are a lot more problems than just asking the head of the ECG to go. The ECG is mainly a bulk distribution company. They do distribution, supply, and metering, and that's their responsibility. Somebody else has to be responsible for the generation, the transmission, and also the supply of the feed, which is very critical. I mean, I'm talking about the gas and the light crude oil. And these are the issues that we have. The sector is a complex sector, and for it to work effectively, you need a combined commercial structure to work.
But won't you say...
One of the difficulties we have has to do with government itself. Government inactions and actions is the reason why we are here today. I don't want to be very speculative, but if the reason for asking the MD to leave is as a result of the blackout that we are witnessing, then I think firing him is not going to address the problem at all.
But would you agree with the minister who said earlier in an interview with us that ECG has failed miserably?
How does ECG fail when government owns ECG so much amount of money, buying electricity for which they are not able to pay, and they are making the balance sheet of ECG look so bad, and nobody is willing to sell to ECG because this balance sheet is not good, it's not attractive? Who is crippling ECG? It is not the individual consumers that are crippling ECG. It is the government itself that is crippling ECG. And I think it's time Ghanaians must be told the fact. And so ECG is not failing on its own. It has its own administrative problems.
Yeah.
It has its own management problems. We agree there are some elements of distribution losses that the ECG wanted to tackle. They started doing that. Distribution losses somewhere last year was about 26-27%. They brought it down to about 22%. Has government on its own been able to do up in terms of its indebtedness to ECG? Nobody will sell power to a consumer or a bulk purchaser. That is not in any good financial position.
So you wouldn't say
the reason why we are not getting IPP into this country is because ECG's balance sheet is not attractive.
But won't you say,
because
John,
government owns ECG?
John, won't you say that there is need for restructuring in ECG at all?
Perfectly, I agree. There's a room for restructuring, but the room for restructuring must start at the policy direction.
Right.
It must start at the ministry. It shouldn't start at the agencies. The ministry gives a broad policy direction and guidelines, which must be backed by the strategies, and those strategies are implemented at the various agencies. But the failure is a result of policy failure.
Right.
And so whoever is responsible must be fired at that point.
Must be fired at that point.
Why is it that in Ghana, when the big men fail, we always look round and then pick the small boys on the street? They must also be fired when they fail.
Right, Mr. Amel.
If they blame game.
Mr. Amel, we're grateful.
Responsible must be fired.
We are grateful. I'm sorry, we'll run out of time, and we're very grateful for your time on today's Big Story. My name is Stephen Enti. That's where we draw the curtains, and we'll be right back with the interactive segment. Do stay.